Hi everyone, this is Mindy and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be playing with the new bundle from Gina Designs and creating this beautiful window scene. Now before I get into my card, I do want to quickly go through some of the other products in this release this month for February 2023. This is the Blue Violet stamp set, also has a coordinating die. This is the Be Encouraged stamp set. It has some layering images and that teacup or coffee cup. We have a whole lot of happy, really great for just tons of different sentiments on here. There are dies for the different shapes and the word happy, so it's a great versatile set. And then we have a beautiful barnyard with these gorgeous illustrations of the cow and horses and fence, along with some coordinating dies to create scenes. We have positive greetings, and now there is a coordinating die set for all of those words. I don't have that right now, but I did want to let you know that. And then we have the Happy Hearts embossing folder. There are a couple new die sets. Now I keep mine all on one big magnetic sheet, but these are two separate die sets. There is the Scripty Quartet there on the right with a shadow die, and then the Happy Quartet. And then this is the Happy Hydrangea stamp set, which is free with a $75 purchase or more from Gina Designs. This is the Radiant Roses layering bundle. There is a large stamp set, stencil, embossing folder, and coordinating dies. So I'm going to just kind of briefly walk through this before I get started. This is the large stamp set. So there's an outline image, there is the solid image. We also have the coordinating dies. Now that stamp set also works with the stencil. There are going to be, or there is, some polyglaze sheets that go along with this that you can purchase separately and use that to have a beautiful gold outline. I'm going to be using this stencil today for my card project, but also this stencil works with the embossing folder. It does happen to line up with the florals on that embossing folder. It might be just a hairline off, but it does work. To do my stenciling, I am using the Gina Designs layering weight white cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I want to have my stenciled image kind of swoop to create almost an oval, so it's on each side of my cardstock. And I did mask off the one side with some post-it notes because I tend to overblend a little bit, so I want to protect that edge. Now I'm starting off with the leaves using Key Lime ink. So this is kind of a base color for me, just using my blending brush to add the color in there. And then I want to add a little bit of dimension and kind of just give it some oomph. So I'm using Jelly Bean Green ink, using a mini blending brush to just add it to the very edges of the leaves. I will say too with those leaves, be very gentle because there are some delicate pieces in there, so you don't want to risk bending those. Then I'm going to carefully peel that part of the stencil away and bring in the next layer, which is the roses. So I found it easiest for me to do the leaves first and then the flowers, just so I kind of knew how far that was going to swoop over on my card front. Now I had brought in the embossing folder before, and that was to give me, I used it as a guide, so I kind of knew where to put the roses. And now I'm ink blending on some sweet mango ink using my blending brush. I tend to always do pink roses or red roses, so I thought giving this more of a spring feel would be a lot of fun. Now, once again, to add some more color to it and dimension, I'm bringing in tomato soup. But instead of putting it in the center of the flower, which is where I would normally put it, I'm doing it more on the outside edge. And then the lighter side is going to be facing towards the center. Now I flipped my cardstock so I can do the other side, and there is going to be a little bit of overlapping there on one of the leaves. I'm fine with the leaves overlapping. I just didn't want my flowers to overlap anything. So here once again, I'm starting out with that lightest color first, which is that Key Lime, and then bringing in the Jelly Bean Green to add that little bit of dimension to the edges of the leaves. And even though I'm using mine to fill up my card front, you could use this individually as your centerpiece of your card. Now, once my leaves are added in, then I can bring my flowers in, and I feel like I have a little bit of wiggle room because I really don't have anything as a guide on the cardstock other than the leaves. So I kind of have that wiggle room to place my flowers. So there was the sweet mango, and then bringing in that darker color with the tomato soup. Then after all of my ink blending is done, I can remove the stencils, which I usually will clean off with some rubbing alcohol. And this would be fine as a card front, but I thought it would be really pretty to make it look like I was looking at some rose bushes outside of a window. So I brought in the Master Layout 11 and I lined that up with some layering white cardstock once again, holding that in place with low tack tape and die cutting out this window that's going to fit right over the front of the card. So I do want to add a little bit of dimension to this. So I'm going to add some foam tape behind my window panel. Now with the foam tape, I went all the way around the edge, and then I also added some smaller pieces into the window panes themselves because I don't want that to sag in the center. I'll remove the backing of that foam tape and then I can line that up. I usually start with the bottom left-hand corner and work my way up, and I can always trim off any excess if I happen to line that up incorrectly, which I usually do. Now my sentiment, I'm using one of my scratch pieces of cardstock from that window die, and I'm using a sentiment off of that Radiant Roses stamp set. I'm stamping this in the Obsidian Amalgam ink. Now this can stay wet for a little while longer than the regular dye ink, so I am going to help speed up that drying process with my heat tool, kind of going over the front and over the back so I don't warp the cardstock, and then use the coordinating die to die cut that out. I also die cut out that sentiment from just some plain white cardstock so I could layer it together using my Connect glue that I have in these fine tip bottles, and that's going to help build up that dimension to the sentiment. Then I'm adding that liquid glue kind of towards the center on the back of the sentiment and placing that right in the middle of my window, and I'm going to set something heavy on it for now just to make sure that secures down really well. Normally, I will bring in the clear quartz sequence for my embellishing, but decided to bring in the frozen rhinestones, which are very, very sparkly. So I always kind of place them out where I want them first, and then I come in with my liquid glue to attach those. That's going to finish up my card project for you today. I hope you enjoyed this card and my video tutorial. I will have all of the supplies listed down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. Thanks so much for joining me today, and see you soon.